Good evening. Hello. I've been playing a game, so the streamer I often have on in the background while I do this in the evenings is a guy called Darth Microtransaction. He came here the other day. He came here the other day and dropped some subs, and a few people followed, and it was a bit embarrassing for me because it's kind of like, oh my god, he saw me, kind of moment. Anyway, he posted a challenge in Path of Exile 2, a game I very, very casually play. Well, I say casually, I try really hard, but I am rather sucky as a games player. And I know this. I'm under no illusion that I'm any good, right? But hello, welcome to the Nut House. I was just explaining why what I've been doing this weekend, so worry not, you haven't really missed anything. So DM posted this challenge for Path of Exile 2, which was to when you run a private league, everybody starts from scratch. They've got no spare gear, so you haven't got advantage by no matter how much you play, other than the knowledge you retain in your head. And the fight was on to basically get to the final boss. Now, I was under no illusion I'd ever make it there, because, well, frankly, I've never been there, and, well, the game's been around since December, and I still haven't been there, so I was never going to win. I also don't normally play hardcore, because hardcore means when you die, that's it, you start again. And so I don't normally play that, but I did achieve personal best, which was that I died on the very last mob at the end of Path of Exile 2. So they got to Arbiter, and the race is now won. 2 people after, must be close to 30 hours, 2 people finally made it and killed him 5 minutes apart. It was kind of sad. I mean, one of the favourites to win probably would have won almost yesterday, except for the wonderful RNG generator really was not in their favour. So, but I did really well. I died to the wolf in the manor, who frankly gets me every friggin' time. So I'm not too surprised, but I'd never got that far without a death before. And so I'm proud of myself, even though I came last, It's kind of like, yeah, I basically came last. But you know what? I still am proud that I took part. I've never really taken part in any of these things before because I suck, and I quietly was doing my own thing. But you know what? I wasn't the first to die. Hurrah. First to die died at level 2 on the beach, I think. So, hurrah, it wasn't me. And although I did expect it to be me, frankly. So, with all that in mind, pride has been had in that, I mean, as one of the biggest problems I think with a lot of games is that sometimes it's not down to skill. Because, to be honest, if it's a game where if I take 3 steps here and kill this dude, he will drop this, that will happen, then it's also not a skill game because, well, you know that should you do X, Y will happen. But with a lot of these games, Path of Exile, the map is not consistent. There are kind of rules about, should this be here, that will be over there, and, But you can't predict where everything's going to be. You can't predict what will drop. You can predict the boss mobs that will be in most areas, but not necessarily exactly where they are, or if they are a fixed point. That's okay, but they have random generated skills to an extent, so they don't do the same thing every time. And so what I have learnt this weekend is that as long as the random generator's being reasonably nice to me, I will be okay. If the random generator's being moody, which random generators are prone to, let's truly be honest, No, not at all. I have no skill. But then I knew that. So, anyway, it is time to get down to business and play with the bobbins. I'm not yawning yet. Let's turn that off. So, chocolate is from, for Nautical, chocolate is from a crafty area I'm on Discord. And we've been talking about how sometimes when you're working or whatever, it can be beneficial to have other people around you, virtually or otherwise, doing the same kind of thing. So I invite them to come along and join in while I do some crafting. So this is my craft of choice. I am stupid and basically a masochist. But welcome to the madness. Welcome to the madness indeed. Naughty Cat also does crafting, and not this. So, you are not alone in the joining in with fellow craftians doing crafty things. You may not be doing anything specifically at this moment, but Naughty Cat also crafts, so craftiness abound. To be honest. So yes, I do tend to talk an awful lot of rubbish while I do this, so... Because, well, what am I going to sit here doing? Cross, twist, cross, twist, twist. Yeah, you can soon get bored of that, so... ooh, oh, you are the right one. Aha! What were you making today, Nautical? Or were you filling in prior destruction? Sounds perfectly reasonable. Of course. I would expect nothing less of you, my friend. Did you have fun staring at my picture of the rose ground? I do reckon you should be able to do something along those lines. There may be some shenanigans, but I'm sure you can do something along those lines. And of course, if you're prepared to go slightly off Celtic rule, you could do almost like an internal filler with it. So a bit like, you know, these squares, you know, you do your bit, kind of say, put the cross in the middle and fill in a bit with, you know, almost a 4-strand plait of variant around the outside, because that's, in a way, all it is a 4-strand plait variant. So, you know, stretching it slightly, but yeah. It's just a fancy plait that ends up with, as I keep calling them, squovels. Well, gives you something to think about. I mean, you know, like there isn't enough things to think about in the world, but it's a challenge for you. Why does that one look really far? I was up stupidly late again last night, playing silly game, of course. No. I know this feeling well. I mean, in theory, it sounds really simple. You know, get some, cement that's fairly thick and not too watery. Yeah, that's really not a hard idea at all. Practice, not so much. I probably would have gone with a hardwood box that's screwed together so you can unscrew it together with plastic lining. Very carefully done plastic lining so that it doesn't have creases and weird bits in the corners. So what I would probably do is actually make sheets of plastic that have holes in where the screw holes should go, so that it's almost glued onto the edges so that it can't. When I say plastic, I mean like, dog food bag plastic, not cling film plastic, and have a covering so that it won't stick and merge with the wood, and go try a bit of that. Hello, how are you? This bobbin's getting very, very thin. Naughty cat, I got bored waiting for those sticks to arrive, so I've ordered some different sticks, but I'm now going to have to cut them to size. It's a bit annoying, but I've done worse in my life. Got to remember where my craft knife is now, though. No, I didn't. No. No, because that looks like a bad idea. Well, it's not supposed to be spotty bamboo. I guess until I get it, I won't actually know, because as we all know, the product used in the advertisement may not actually look like what you get, especially from a lot of online things. So we shall see. I mean, if I hate them when they arrive, I'll wait for the other ones to turn up. But yeah, that explains why it looks like loads of straws glued together. I mean, obviously micro straws, but it looks like a load of straws. So, for those who have not understood that part of the conversation, I saw, I think it was last weekend now, lady posted, yeah, I'm fussy, they'd be too light, but I mean, I'm hoping to weigh them down with the metal beads, but I think they'd still be khaki. So, I think it was last weekend, if not, it was very earlier in the week. Lady I know, well, I speak to more accurate, I can't say I claim I know her, she's not even in the country. She posted that she'd done like a crafting exhibition-y thing, and she does lace making, and lady she was working with, she posted a picture of her stuff, and she had, quite frankly, awesome bobbins. Now, I've got the picture saved somewhere, hang on, see if I can find it. Pictures, there we go. Are you in here? No, downloads. Sort by date. That's the one. Open with paint. Make it slightly bigger. There you go. So, as you can see, these bobbins do look rather elegant, spectacular, awesome, and many other things. Expensive is also another word for them. They look pretty glorious, and she's got quite a few there after all, we can see that. And I kind of went, oh my god, I love her bobbins. Now, I've got a bit of a weakness. Well, actually, I have quite a considerable weakness. I would argue I suffer from kleptomania, but usually only of very specific things. Depends why you put it in timeout, my friend. Personally, if it's in timeout, it's kind of... It depends how badly it's sinned. I mean, as you know, I fully understand it needs to sit and think about what it's done. Because, well, yep, they... Work on something new. Work on something new. Could be the pattern's wrong. I mean that genuinely. Could be the actual pattern count is wrong. So I would say do something new. Let your brain move on to other things. Get involved in other things till it's just about forgotten it. Then try once more. If you still can't get it to add up, don't bother. It's not worth the grief. You know, your sanity is worth far more than a scarf. Fair enough. I know I've done patterns where, for example, it would be increase every 7 stitches. Well, does that mean on the 7th stitch, or I do 7 stitches and then do it? And because, of course, over enough stitches, that can make a difference. And you're sitting there trying to guess which way they actually meant. So yeah, do something else. Do something else. If you've had a couple of goes at it, and the yarn gods are not in your favour, yeah, maybe the yarn gods are trying to tell you to do something else. Well, think about it. Think about me and these squares. We all know it takes me about a week to do a triangle. Therefore, it takes about 4 weeks to do a square. Why then, when I did strips, did it only take 2? Yet it's the same size. What a fun. You know? It's because the world's trying to tell me, stop making bloody squares and do something else. I also think some of it is because I don't spend half my life shortening bobbins. Just thought I'd take a dig at my bobbins for that one. But But yes, back to the bobbins. So, she says, not showing what she's doing. Those bobbins, and I kind of went, oh my God, they're so cool. I want. Where did she get them? And my friend said, I'll give you her email because she made them. I went, what? And lo and behold, I sent this lovely lady an email and I got a response. Pretty much, you won't believe how easy it was to make them. Now, I'm a daughter of a carpenter, I've got a reasonable imagination. And I don't disagree. It is kind of a well-known practice, but done with a bit more style. For one of the things that people have pointed out in the beginner group is that you do not need fancy stuff to try lace bobbin making, right? All you really need is a solid enough, preferably foamy cushion, but as I found, polystyrene cooler lid thing that I got with my Cornish pasties is an awesome one. So you buy 10 pasties for I think it's about £47, and well, it comes with a free cooler because they come frozen, and well, the cooler lid perfect because it's basically flat, and there is a slight lip on it, so I glued a couple of Amazon envelopes on the back to make it level, so that if I pressed on the middle by accident, doing something, it wouldn't just collapse straight through, because I'm not known for my daintiness, or dog, because dog could also facilitate this quite nicely for me, and I covered it with a bit of cloth so it looked a little bit more reasonable. Actually, I think I put a bit of felt around it and then some cloth just to make it look a little bit more like a lace pillow. And in fact, it still is one of my most favourite pillows. So, it does not have to be a fancy pillow. This one, I bought it originally because it was designed by the lady who made the original square that this is based on to make squares. Hence, the bit in the middle is square of the right side. And if I grab this, hang on, you can see this pulls away. The idea is that this middle bit actually can be lifted up and turned. I just turn the whole pillow because I'm lazy, right? But the idea is with this, is the reason these end bits move is that you can move this up and down. So when I get towards the bottom, arguably, I can push this up, take the top one out and put it at the bottom, so that this bottom bit's now up here, and I can work with longer bobbins. Yeah, I can't be bothered. I do get a bit frustrated with the short bobbins, especially when I turn it round and they're kind of like dangling up here and I now want it down here, but it is kind of perfectly reasonable, and you get used to doing it. And well, as you can see, we've only got a few more triangles to go to complete my half a curtain, because it has been downgraded to half a curtain. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, but you don't need fancy thing. And in terms of bobbin, all it really has to be, you can literally use a wooden dowel, so like I'm talking like the wooden dowels, with an elastic band at the top. You wind it round the dowel. I haven't got an elastic dowel to hand, but for example, she's one of these. I know it's a bit thin and stuff, but you can very much, arguably, it's a similar length to most dowels, so you'd wind the cotton round this bit with an elastic band just to stop it sliding off the top, and then you work with those. You do, and you can buy dowels really, really cheap. Crayons, pens, clothes pegs. Now, with very thin dowels, some more like lollipop sticks, people often glue beads to them. Because, well, why not? Make them pretty. Now, Not really. Lace making is a dumb hobby for me. It truly is. It is. I have no need for lace, and I'm not really into pretty. I'm into function. So, from that point of view, pretty coloured beads, you know, and you know, maybe pictures and all the rest of it, because you do get painted bobbins, don't really appeal, because, well, what's the point? You only look at the bobbins while you're making it, and their only real job is to hold the string so that you can flick it about a bit in the right order to make the various stitches. They are not there as a, you know, they do not form. It's not like knitting, for example, where the knitting needles determine the size of anything, or how wide you can work, or whether you can do it in a round or not. No, a lace bobbin, its only job is to hold the string so that you can basically kind of dance around the maypole with them. And so I'm not overly keen on spending a lot of money on them. Now, that being said, I would sell a body part for a decent set of ebony ones. Hence, really liking these black ones that this lady has made. And this is definitely running out. Now, are you the right one or not? You are. Excellent. So, on my magic bobbin holder, I've even got the right bit of string to wind it onto the bobbins, because the last thing you want to do is use the wrong one, because the other one was you may recall the one that I made my strip out of was slightly thinner, so I didn't want to use the wrong one, because then that would really show and that would look crap, or crap as the case might be. But these are definitely going to run out any minute soon. So yeah, I really want to make them. And to this extent, I then set about and she said, I bought a load of wooden dowel, got the hardware store to cut them to length, coloured them in with a black Sharpie, and then put some beads on them. You need to take the dowels down the bead shop though, so you get the right size. Well, if you order 5mm stuff off Amazon, well, it's going to be kind of 5mm. So I've ordered bunches of beads, and they've all come in plastic bags, which don't show very well on camera. But I've got a few patterns of bead, and I will, just for Naughty Celt, where's Naughty Celt's favourites? There they are. Because Naughty Celt kind of likes these, and I can't blame him. Well, after all, that's why I bought them too. Naughty Celt does rope stuff. Here you go. Right. I'm going to send you more than 2, you know that, right? I'll probably send you 4 or 6 or something, so you've got a couple of spares. Because I know what it's like. You'll be so happy with them, and then you'll wake up one morning and find one's gone walkabout. So I'll send you some spares, don't worry. But these are these. Now, if I zoom in, right, there you go. You can see that they look like twisted rope. And these are quite heavy. I mean, they're not like, oh my God, I can't lift 2 kind of heavy. But considering they're 8mm beads kind of thing, they have a reasonable weight to them. And so I can tell you now that this is 55 grams, right? I would say pack of 40 is about the same weight, okay? So they're quite heavy. So I'm planning to put those at the bottom, because it is traditional for the weight to be nearer the bottom, as is demonstrated by a more typical bobbin, she says, knowing that it's hidden behind the beads on her table, which is the spangled bobbin of horribleness. By the way, for those who are not quite sure, this is a Midlands bobbin. Midlands bobbins are traditional for British styles, hence their Midlands. And the little tiny sticks of not a lot, but they have beads on the bottom to add a bit of weight. Now, this weighs next to nothing, but it also does stop them rolling around. The rolling around is about the only thing that I do appreciate them for. The problem is that while this one's quite small, not all of them are. Now, I didn't put any of the spangles on these bobbins. I bought a bulk load, and this was one. Hence, this has Felix Stowe Lace Day, 1st of July, 2006, right? Now, I don't hate the bobbin directly. I just don't like the spangle. Now, there are other bobbins, so I don't have one to hand. Oh, ad breaks. Okay, wait for the ad breaks. I shall keep going. Why didn't you tell me it was ad breaks? Oh, possibly because it's the first one. Feels a lot, one. No. See, told you we were going to run out. Right, let's fill you. And now I need to do some juggling because I don't really have the space, but that's okay. Let me move my keyboard a bit. Oh, I'm sorry, dog. Did I breathe in the general direction of my own house? I'm so sorry. Put that in there. Grab the end. Like that. Everybody's back. That's going. So, now back to the bobbins. There is a thing called Honiton bobbin. Now, Honiton bobbins are tiny. They literally look, in comparison to even those, like toothpicks, which is really great when you're doing Honiton lace. If you're not doing Honiton lace, because Honiton lace is generally more like small motifs. So if you're doing small motify things, small tiny bobbins, yeah, not such a problem, maybe. Although I'm not a small dainty person. And the first square I made with Honiton bobbins, but they were a bit small for me. I've got big man hands and small tiny bobbins. I do have one floating around somewhere. I'm just wondering where it is. But in essence, Honiton bobbins are literally the size of the metal part of one of these knitting needles. They're a bit wider, so they've got a little bit more girth to them, but they're the same length. They really are tiny, wooden toothpicks. So once again, right? Well, I have a habit of trying and collecting different bobbin types. Oh, look, a spambot. Hello, spambot, you have come here to die. Because that is what happens to all spambots when they come to this channel. I report you to Twitch and move that because I can't type. And Twitch will kill you. That's how it works. There you go. Spambot will go and fade away into the distance. And they do big chunky ones, so sometimes you'll see on YouTube bolster pillows, which are the big round ones. People doing those often tend to have much bigger bobbins. And when I mean much bigger, I mean really much bigger. Some of them are almost kind of like, I can't see that much, like this long, so they're almost like twice as long as these. And sometimes nearly twice as fat. I mean, these things are like broom handles, some of them. I mean, fancy ones, but they're kind of like huge. This is the kind of rod you'd put your curtain up with looking, Okay, not quite that fat, but still pretty chunky. We're talking fatter than pencils, So it is one of those things that bobbins do have an element of, what's the best word for it? Personal taste. There is no right or wrong really, there isn't. As long as it holds your yarn, it really doesn't matter a toss. However, in terms of practical nature, the reasons there are different types of lace different types of bobbins, is there are different types of lace and different ways of working with it and different pillow types and all the rest of it that you work on, and some work better with some and some work better with others. And that's right, I'm just trying to lay this around the edge of some pins so that it doesn't get caught up in anything it shouldn't, but at the same time is down the back of a load of stuff, because I want it to come out down here to replace this one. And you know what? One thing that has dawned on me as I'm doing this is I am making my own life very difficult. Knots are not really a thing in lace making. Well, there are knots. We do knots. But, let's just say, not very often. The only knots tend to come right at the very, very end. And even then, Nautica is a king of knots. This makes him cry. Nautica, I'm going to break a habit of a lifetime, and I'm going to tie a fucking knot in my string, because life is short, and it's, nearly midnight, and I am not in the mood. So, I'm Got to remember how we work this out now. There you go, that goes through there. This is how Nautical has shown me to do said knot. And then I'm going to trim the ends. She says squinting like never before. Which you can't see. There we go. Pick up the 2 remnants. Problem that I have is that being very short-sighted, I can't do a lot of things far away. And being on camera, the thing that is on camera, if I hold my arm out at full extent, that's all you can see, right? So I can't be close enough for it to be easy for you to see and for me to see. And so tying a knot in it and holding 2 things and putting them together, I can't do that here because that's both arms outstretched, and well, I've got frontage and it gets in the way and it's complicated. Whereas if I do it under my nose, I can see what I'm doing. So you do tend to miss out a little bit on that, but I am going to cheat and put a knot in because, well, I'm going to put a knot in because, well, as we've established, I'm the only one that's going to see this thing in the long run. And there's the other one that now needs doing. Hang on. Got to wind this one as well. And I'll try and do the knot on screen because it is Nautical's knot. Hang on. I've got to wind it all first and that takes a second. I've got a bobbin winder, but I can't put that on screen because it's the far end of my table and out the way and all sorts. So. You can be Prince of Knots rather than King of Knots. If that is the title His Holiness wishes to have, we can bestow that upon him. Because, well, I'm certainly not, so... I'm certainly not. So let me try this on camera. Let me put a dark thing down behind it so that you can see a little better. Cover up most of this. To help. I'm not going to zoom in because, believe me, if I zoom in, if I move like 2mm, you won't see jack crap anyway. So that's really a bad move as well. So what you do is you form a loop with this one and you make a loop with this one, but you do it so that the top bit comes over and on top and downwards. You poke this one through that hole and that end through that hole and you pull. And you have a strong knot. Now, for the weavers amongst us, this is actually one way to do the weaver's knot. Nautical will tell everyone what it's properly called because it's got a proper name. It is so much easier because Nautical helped me with this a lot because I showed him the video that tried to explain how to do a weaver's knot. And the bloke in it clearly thought he was funny, but he wasn't really. I mean, I think it's one of those things, is if you could already do it and it was a reminder video, it probably wouldn't have been quite so bad. But when you're trying to learn said knot, and some bloke who sounds like he's had 3 beers with a couple of whiskey chasers is banging on about bunnies and don't they look funny, and you lose track of what he's doing. Plus, as Nautical will attest, one of the biggest problems I've got is if you use nice thick stuff, and believe me, this is normal crochet, this is thin crochet cotton, more to the point, but if you have thin crochet cotton, which as you can see is quite bigger than my lace making cotton, it's not easy to do even with that level of thickness, let alone stupid fine human hair crap that you use for lace making. And so I kind of was getting really wound up, ha ha ha, because there are nearly 100 bobbins here. If I've got to do the best part of 50 knots, or maybe more knots, depending on whether I'm joining something that already exists or not, there are potentially a lot of knots. And these knots do... Well, they were plaguing my soul, because 90% of the time, Mr. Bunny Ears, his knot wasn't working. Now, his knot is the same knot. He just does it in a different manner, where he lays the two ends between his fingers. You then have to try and wrap it around your fingers, which, when you're talking really thin thread, wrapping it around your fingers feels like a lot of thread. So you need a really long tail. And of course, nothing really holds it there because it's small and twisty, and it was not easy to do. Hello! Hello! I have a feeling I know who Rated Potato Entertainment is. How are you? You're rubbish. How are you? Dog's destroying the house. What are you doing, dog? If you rucked up the blanket, little one, it's your own fault. She's miffed because the blanket on the chair is not flat. Because she's just dug it and make it. Well, lie on the dog bed, or the other dog bed, or the other dog bed, or the couch, or the other bit of the couch. Mrs. Yes. So, how are you, Yordic? What have you been up to? Let me count my bobbins. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Did I forget? This one. I did. That sounds about normal for most of us, actually. Injury comes with age, and usually in spectacularly disappointing manners. Hang on. You need to be this side. Okay. There we go. For I have done many injuries to myself over the years. To the point I can no longer do karate because I injured myself just a few too many times. And it was nobody else's fault. It's not like I got repeatedly punched in the face. Nope, that never happened. Nope. I bust both knees, my very lonesome, doing, well, stupid crap. 1, 2, 3, 4. One of them was, the doctor told me I'd actually ripped my own ligament. He lied, he got it wrong, but he kind of tried to tell me that I'd ripped off my own ligament. The second time I slipped in dog weed. So, it's with age comes greater injury and longer heal times. Right, we have achieved that. Let's now put everyone back in some sticks. So let's undo you, because this will be easier. Right. 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's put 6 in there, because towards the middle is usually a good plan. Stick. 5. That leaves too many, I think, for you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, I got my first down. I got, I achieved far more than I expected. But I'm also going to be 53 this year, so, bouncing off things is clearly, slightly less desirable at my age. I had bowel cancer 2 years ago, so I've now got a real cracking scar. I have a 15-inch scar up my front. It looks like a star jumped onto a chainsaw. It was kind of amusing. Well, for all the wrong reasons, but it was kind of amusing. I'm the first person, apparently. For those of you who find the whole, you need to eat 5 a day and you should have fish and fruit and kind of not really what you desire to eat, and you long to live off junk food, and if only they could make normal food taste nice, maybe. Well, they can make it taste nice, but if the average stick of celery tasted more like junk food, you'd probably eat more of it, right? And I'm the first person that the colorectal nurse who tried to explain, when you wake up from your operation, there is a really high chance. Well, and this is the thing, but so colorectal nurse basically told me that when I woke up from my operation, I would have a stoma bag. And for those who are not aware, a stoma bag is they basically chop your innards out, make a hole in the outside, poke it out, and a bag gets attached to it to catch the output. Very sexy, don't we think? Right? And I can't say I was relishing the idea of having one, because, well, I really, really wasn't. Because that definitely was not part of what I wanted in life. And she said, one thing you must do with the stoma bag is eat a packet of crisps, chips to the Americans, every day. And of course I went, fuck yes. And it was like, and I started laughing, and she went, and she was laughing, and it was like, my mum was like, well, why are you laughing? And she goes, I've never seen someone pleased. And I went, you've just told me I've got to eat crisps. Hallelujah. Doctor says, don't eat fibre, eat crisps. Hallelujah. I will point out, I did not wake up with a stoma bag. I am not saddened by this. Exactly. I mean, with all the will in the world, for someone who does not want to eat healthily, because, I'm not really up on fruit, veg, fish, and all the rest of it, you've just told me not to eat things like bran flakes, which I hate, not to eat all the things with that roughage to do the right thing and all the rest of it. You've told me not to eat all of this stuff that, for years everyone's banged on that, oh, your diet must be lacking in. Yeah. Now you've just told me I must, not should, must eat junk. Hurrah! So, yeah. And Pringles for pudding, exactly, right? That I can do. I can eat my body weight in crisps. That I can do, without a doubt. One of the problems I was likely to have was that apparently you should avoid eating spicy things. And when I kind of went, why? Because bear in mind, your insides do not have feelings. Of course, well, your outsides do. And let's just say the post-curry ring of fire and a stoma bag apparently are really bad combos. So hence, really glad, because, well, I've just, as those who hang around here often will know, I am rather partial to the curry place that is not far from here, who deliver here, who also do burgers. For they do Naga burgers. And basically it's a standard burger with Naga chili sauce. And, well, I'm rather partial to those. I can do a lot of damage to those. And I don't seem to suffer any post... You see, isn't that always the way? You know, you try and do the right thing. You know, I vow I will eat broccoli, and I will vow I'll have sprouts, even though all they're fit for is food fights. And you know, I'll eat more greens, and I'll have fish and fruit, and I'll cut back on all of the junk. And then your body goes, "No, you won't." And that's it. And then the doctor comes along, going, "Ah, yes. We need you to try and eat the EEC food mountain." Okay. Yes, boss. EEC food mountain to the rescue. I will eat that. I will do my bit. Yeah. So, but I am glad to say they chopped out about 8 inches of my bowel. I think that's part of the reason I'm not so fond of vegetables is how I was brought up. First of all, my mother couldn't cook for shit. So, my mother's vegetables truly had no structural integrity, flavour or colour. You almost had to ask what they were on many occasions. So, let's not be thinking that I actually ever knew what they tasted of. But at the same time, when you work on a market garden, digging, picking, washing vegetables all summer, kind of sick of the sight, the buggers by the end of it, and you know, having washed in a week, I don't know, a couple of hundred weight of beans or whatever, if I see another bean, I'm going to chuck. So I really grew out of vegetables as a result. I mean, it helped everybody a lot that I went and did this. But at the same time, I think it truly put me off a lot of vegetables. Not because I'd seen how they were, you know, how they were grown or anything. It's not, you know, obviously because, you know, you grow them, you harvest them, you wash them, you eat them. I mean, I got to have really fresh ones. There were no fresher. But when you've spent the whole day picking broad beans for someone, and then you come in knackered, and it's tea time, and Granny goes, "Can you prep the beans for tea?" Oh, not more beans. Oh God, I can't face another bean. I find that all green vegetables make me want to puke. Now, I don't know whether that's a psychosomatic thing, but you can even make gravy with bean water and I will feel nauseous, even if you don't tell me. So, if it's got pea or bean or anything of the sort in it, I will generally feel quite nauseous. As a result, I'm pretty sure it's not entirely psychosomatic, but, you know, everyone kind of goes, "Oh, it can't be that bad." It can. If you feel that rough that you feel like you're going to hurl for like 4 hours after eating it, I'm pretty sure it is, you know. I may do. I mean, I still try. I have found many more vegetables that I eat now than I ever did as a child. Mainly because my mother's not cooking them. And in fact, I remember parsnips a la mother. They were... Oh, it was like eating slugs and worms. They were slimy. I don't know how she did it, but they were slimy. Whereas, for all good British people, I go down Tesco's, or Tesco's to me, you know how it is, and say, send a frozen pack of honey roasted parsnips, you shove in the oven for like 25 minutes. I like those. I buy those. Yeah, I mean, my mother was, well, overboiled goes without saying in my mother's case. My mother was utterly gifted in the kitchen, but not in the right direction. if my mother ever got to hell, well, when my mother got to hell, I'm pretty sure Satan told her to get the fuck out, because if you cook like that, you can't stay here. It's too bad, right? My ex-husband will eat anything, except for cauliflower, but he will eat anything. And my mother, when I was in hospital, Julie, back in 99, Julie offered to cook for him so that he could have a meal, stay here, and drive back later. Or the following morning, whichever suited him most. And he took it up on one occasion. One was enough. My ex-husband likes a good curry. Well, if you've got any sense, most people do. She made him a curry. I'm sure there's a special place. Maybe there's a special hell with only my mother in it. She made him some curry. Now, curry is not normally made out of minced beef, but okay. You know, it's meat, it can do. I mean, to be honest, with a decent enough curry, the meat product arguably is irrelevant. You're not actually tasting it particularly. The mince that she found, we don't quite know where she got it from, because she certainly didn't mince it herself. I know that, because she lost her mincer. I think I may have had a hand in that, but I can't remember, to be honest. But I know that her mincer had either died or she lost it, or I broke it on purpose, one or the other. Anyway, it was defunct, so that was not a thing. The mince that she got was primarily made out of fat, gristle and bone, and she potentially may have had it in the same cupboard as the curry flavouring, but we're not sure it made it into the pot, so it didn't taste of anything. It was mainly fat, gristle and bone. Now, while my ex-husband will eat pretty much anything, he does not do fat, gristle or bone particularly well. They tend to make him want to puke. And to be honest, no, I think most of us can relate to that on a level. It's certainly not the, I don't think you ever went into a restaurant and said extra fat, bone and gristle, please, There isn't one. It's what Americans call it ground beef, we call it mince. I think that's pretty much the difference. Yeah. It's a bit like cilantro and coriander. We call it coriander, they call it cilantro. Same shit, right? Pants, trousers, Anyway, so, and he came back and he was saying it was disgusting, and I went, but Trev, that was her trying her hardest. And he went, what do you mean? I went, she knows you like curry. They don't. My dad won't eat it. They made that specifically for you. And he was like, and I already could work out what it looked like. I didn't even have to picture it. And he went, but it was grey. And I went, her mince is always grey. Doesn't matter what she does with it, it's grey. Doesn't matter whether it's for lasagna or bolognese. It's grey. As I said, it's a skill. And he looked at me and he went, and I was like, but she tried really hard for you. She made you something you would like. She wouldn't normally bother. She'd just make something gross. And he kind of looked at me and he went, you lived with her till you were like 20. And I went, yeah. And he went, how did you live that long? Surely you should have died as a child from malnutrition. And I went, Well, possibly, but you've also got to remember, from the age of 7, I had to cook at least one meal a week. Well, when I cooked it, it tasted of fucking food. Hence, I was encouraged to do it at least once a week because, well, my dad liked it. Well, it tasted of food. And so, I had to do Sunday roast. And then when my mother went to college, I had to cook the meal for me and my dad. Now, I burnt a few and I ceremoniously burnt his peas one day. That was quite funny. But, yeah, don't ask how you burn peas. It's a skill. It's called watching the television and not paying attention. But, and I didn't know how long you're supposed to boil the bloody things for. I'm impressed that they were something my mother would have done, to be honest, when I'd finished. But, yeah, I had to really scratch them out the bottom of the pan. I also rather spectacularly on one occasion had been grilling some dinner, and it was something simple, sausages under the grill or whatever, and toaster oven to the Americans. Don't know why you call it a toaster oven, but anyway, took the stuff out, went to put it on the plate, put the plate on a tray, because me and my dad generally ate off trays on our knees. Picked up my plate and just flipped it over onto the tray. I looked at it for 3 seconds anyway. I took my dad's in, went back, picked up my dinner, took it down, sat down with my dinner on the tray. No plate. Fair enough. And my dad looked at me and I went, shut up. I was like 7. I was like, shut up. Don't ask, shut up. Just eat your dinner. But I was cooking and me and my dad would watch like Madder Jaffrey cooking show, and she always had like a huge plate like the size of this lace making pillow with like spices all the way around the edge, and she'd go, oh, we're going to make a plain food today, and she'd have like 50 spices on a thing, and we're going, that's plain? Fuck. Because bear in mind, my mother didn't use any of them, so except for one time, my mother bought some cayenne pepper. Now, for those who are aware, cayenne pepper, it's not hugely hot, but it does have an element of heat to it. Well, when your mother puts basically the entire pot in a sandwich, it's a little much. It was inedible, actually. Only my mother. Yeah. It's yeah. Yeah, exactly, right? It's kind of like, well, it kind of did, So yeah, it's been one. My mother is the kind of person who could put one of those, buy it, nuke it in the microwave for 3 minutes and eat it meals, and she'd put it in the microwave and it would be tasteless. Well, we Brits, we are getting better at all of that because we are so much more multiracial than we used to be. And, whereas, kind of back in the 70s, the only foods you generally saw on the average British high street was kind of a Wimpy, the equivalent to a 7-Eleven, Tesco, Sainsbury's and Waitrose kind of thing, right? And a chippy. Nowadays, you've got Indian, Greek, yeah. To be fair, as I said, nowadays we are a lot better. You know, you can go many places. I mean, for example, where's my phone? I know it's gone midnight, but if I open the food app, so there are a bunch of people. You don't like malt vinegar? Nah, weird. Right, there are 37, bear in mind, I'm in the country, right? There are 37 places that will deliver food here. So we've got pizza, burgers and stuff, pasta and pizza, Burger Shack, Go Peri, so peri peri chicken. I don't know what the fascination with peri peri chicken is. I don't hate it, but it's not exactly, oh my god, I've got to eat my body weight in it. Pizzas, more pizzas. The best takeaway, so they do pizzas, kebabs and burgers. Peri peri chicken again. Kebab and pizzas. Indian and curries. So we got Queen's Fish and Chips, another peri peri friggin' chicken. We've got Chinese, Wacky Burgers, which are the lot who do my Naga burgers. Another fucking peri peri thing. Pizzas, fish chips and pizza, Indian cottage, Indian curry, Indian vegetarian, Indian pizza, Chinese, Indian, Indian and Bangladeshi, pizzas, a veggie place, yeah, I won't be ordering there, pizza and kebab, Indian, hot dogs and desserts. If I remember rightly, hot dogs and desserts also do wine and stuff. You would think that a fairly coastal region would, of all people, would be able to do, you know, basically take egg, you know, and yeah, you would think that of all the places, somewhere near the sea would, or even a lake, to be honest, would be reasonably up on the whole fish front. I mean, to be honest, you haven't had fish and chips in England till you've had coastal fish and chips. No, it's not. I mean, considering they can batter other things, you really would think wiping some fish around it would work. Trout's good. My problem with fish is not the fish. My problem with fish is the bones. I am a bone magnet. I will find a fish bone in anything, no matter what you've done. So I tend not to eat fish because I find the fish bone, it makes me want to gag, and then of course I don't want to eat it anymore, and it's a waste. So it's not that I don't like fish, it's just I don't like the bones. Yeah, I think I did. I find fish. Frankly, I swear I could get pate and it would have a fucking bone in it. You know, I am very gifted at fish bones, and they do make me. And obviously, you know, when you've half died on it, it's not a good thing. Although I have, Yorick, I have actually excelled in that. It is. Well, here was the problem. I made a sandwich here a few months ago and bit into my sandwich and found a pin. And the first thing I knew about it was as I chomped down, because obviously sandwiches are generally quite soft, so, you know, munch, munch, crunch, and shoved the pin straight into my tongue. And then had to try and extract it out of the tongue, because of course it had somehow gone in. Yep. And so there was me trying to, with a mouthful of food, get my hand in. Well, yeah, but it was never going to be in a sensible place, was it? You know, it's not like you know, fine. It is not, no. And no, it was an actual pin from my lace making. It was actually a pin from my lace making. And, you know, I was quite grossed out and trying not to vomit while trying to reach in my mouth, pull out a pin. Yeah, actual pin, metal pin. Because obviously somehow one had got in my jumper. I'd gone into the kitchen, made a sandwich. I know, somehow it was on the bottom of it, so I didn't see it, because obviously if it had been on the top, I wouldn't have shoved it in my face. Chomp. And it had gone spiky end into my tongue. I suppose it's better than going up into the palate. But of course it was now kind of pointing into my tongue. So I had to try and reach in to pull it out. But of course they're quite long. So there's not a lot of room in there. And of course your tongue's almost like the thrashing about animal as you're trying to catch the pin on it. It was deeply unpleasant. I was not happy. Very not happy. It was part of the reason I bought this. This is not some strange form of sex toy. This, or a torch. This is a metal detector. And it means I can now frisk myself for wayward pins and the floor, the couch. Cause I ain't doing that one again. Don't need that one in my life, that's for sure. You know, that was quite scary. Cause part of my brain was going, well, what if I can't get it? What if I can't get it out? Because I couldn't really shut my mouth because I knew that I'd just push the pin in further. And, well, I didn't want that. And it hurt like a mother. And yeah, this was not a happy Liz. And it's not like I had someone else who could rescue it for me. So, well, in part, that's because I'm making quite a lot of it. I am documenting my journey. Now, originally, I was going to make 72 fucking triangles of 18 squares. And make a whole one. Now, I'm only making a half one because, well, we've had a change of plan. It's only taken me 7 months, but we've got a change of plan. So, because you have not been around, these are my squares. This is roughly what it looks like. Obviously, when it's a whole one, it looks the same. All 4 triangles are the same. Don't you dare fall off. Sorry, I've got a runaway bit of brass stuff. There we go. Right. So, where's my cloth of darkness? Sorry, dog. I need it back. Cloth of darkness with dog hair. We are converting to strips for this. The square things down the middle may vary. I haven't decided what I'm actually doing in the long run, but I do think that maybe this frequent is a little much. It is, but sometimes being party to the rest of the world to realise that the world has to continue. Bear in mind I have many of my own demons. But being around and maybe laughing at some of the antics that I get up to and the frustrations that I have because I've lost my shit on stream a few times. And one of them, I swear, if any psychiatrist has seen it, I would have been sectioned instantly. It really was. I was prepared to do damage to myself after that one. But this is 2 strips joined together. Now, the strips are joined here at this slightly bold line in the middle. While it shows up as bold, for example, pretty well on camera, in face-to-face, it is bold, but it looks less bold. In fact, the closer you are to it, the less bold it looks. So, for example, if I put my hand underneath the cloth and bring it up to the camera, if you look sort of there, you can see that there's holes in it, and you can see, imagine then, that it's going to kind of blend in a bit. Now, I am in the middle of making a 3rd strip, because I've had an idea that might make it even less visible. But I'm going to convert to strips, because these strips took a week each. But, and again, I'm not going to put it entirely on top because it will get stuck. These 2 strips work out the same size, approximately in volume, as the square. Well, this took 2 weeks. The strips took 2 weeks. Square takes 4. Same number of stitches, same number of bobbins. Give or take a bit. But the strips take 2. Well then, in the time that it's taken me to do, half, so the 9 squares to make the half curtain. It does, but you can always lurk near a cafe with a Wi-Fi. I do understand. And, while I sit in the comforts of my own home and all the rest of it, I do appreciate that, if you've had hard times and we can all make our problems worse. I mean, Elon Musk probably goes and sits and cries in his, gold-plated mansion because his problems seem really big to him. Most of us would like to share in his problems because, well, if only we had those kinds of problems. Our problems are always personal, and no one can say to anyone, oh, well, that's only this, or, oh, that's not really a problem, get over it, because you just can't. And we've discussed quite a few times on stream about things like when teachers would say things like, you didn't try, or your boss says, you didn't try. I'm sorry, are you in my head? Can you, I might have been up all night crying with effort because I'm so frustrated because I can't make something work. You weren't here, you didn't see that. All you've seen is the end result where it's not what you wanted. You can say it wasn't effective, you can say you had hoped for better, but don't make comments on the effort unless you can back that up with proof, right? And, I know that my karate antics kind of fell into that. If you had seen me on my very first lesson, and you'd seen me get my black belt, you would know how far I came. If all you did was be one of the other people going to watch people grade for black belt, you might have thought I was a pretty crap. And, oh my god, they're not going to give a black belt to that, are they? Kind of deal, right? Well, it's usually beneficial in general because when you know they can do it, when you have seen them doing it 1,000 times before and today they're not, you can say something along the lines of, it doesn't feel like you're putting in the same amount of effort today. It seems. Don't be factual about it. You didn't try. Well, maybe I did, right? And I was one of those children, and I mentioned this a few times on stream. My parents are assholes. That no offence to them, but they were assholes. My parents were absolutely adamant that I was crap all the time. Whatever I did, I was always not good enough. When I got grade 8 in music, which is kind of the highest grade you can get without the professional levels, wasn't good enough. When I wanted to get to my black belt, my dad wouldn't come. When I became the top gymnast in my school, wasn't good enough. When I was offered a chance to train with the Olympic squad, my parents refused because I'd be too fat. I was only 3.5 stone. My parents had an excuse for why I was crap at all opportunity. Now, I do know, well, as an adult, I can see why they tried not to encourage me to do some things, but there's not encouraging you to do some things and telling you you're shit at something you're not. It has left me, as an adult, with big issues in that I don't know what to do with praise. I have no confidence in any of the things that I do, because they kept telling me I was crap at it. Didn't matter what it was, I was crap at it. Even if it was something they couldn't do themselves, and so arguably have no standpoint about how difficult it is, or how... No. It was almost, well, you did it must be crap. Alright? And it does screw you up. And I do know that we've kind of gone a little too far the other way, potentially, in society. In that... Yeah, I know I'm not alone, right? It's not a specific to me thing. There are many others like me who have parents who did the same. And we have all ended up in slightly different places. Now, I do appreciate that to some people, if you turn around and go, well, that's a bit shit, they'll go, well, how dare you say that about, oh, go and make a better one then. Or if you and people like me who put their heart and soul into it, and this was the best thing I'd ever done, and you go, well, that's shit, well, fine, I won't bother then. Well, of course, I am Gen X, so... And that is some of the bigger problems, is that they put that on children. Now, I am Gen X, right? But my parents... The ads are indeed coming. I am Gen X, but my parents basically were Victorian. That's basically what my parents were like. My mother was emotionally irrelevant, and my father was too bit. I didn't realise it as a child, but my dad was too busy holding down a number of jobs to pay for everything. And it screws you up. I mean, it means you're very independent and totally capable, but also, when you do have a problem that you don't know what to do with, well, what do? You don't bother telling anyone because, well, there's no one to tell. Even if there is someone to tell, you still don't think to tell them because you're not used to having that to fall back on. You had no one. I do that a lot. And I try to be supportive to people who struggle with some of the things that I do. I try to encourage people with their stuff. So, it doesn't matter how small it is. If you've done something you're proud of, I want to be proud for you, because I want other people to not go through their lives not knowing that other people can be proud of what they've done too. And as I've said, I do appreciate that, I'm a random Joe on the end of an internet cable, right? But at the same time, I genuinely mean it. If you've done something and you're proud of it, it doesn't matter what it is. Maybe you took up knitting and you finally knitted a square and it hasn't got any holes in it. I can be proud of that. Well, funnily enough, I knew while I still lived with my parents that I was dyslexic. Hang on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I never told them, because if I told them they'd raised a detective child, the absent parentism would have gone up tenfold, and I couldn't cope with that. was bad enough with the little I did get. Anyway, see you on the other side of the ads. That's really nice. That is good. My dad wouldn't have done something like that. I'm watching the thing very carefully. My dad was the guy who wouldn't see me do my black belt, but about 2 weeks earlier had flown out to China to watch other people's children dance for the Royal Ballet. Because, well, he wanted to support them. What about your own family, Dad? You always moaned that your family didn't speak to you or didn't share with you, or maybe this is why, you know? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can go around there for a minute. Whoops, bang the microphone. Sorry, guys. See, this is the one advantage of strip. You don't have to spend half your time shuffling bobbins around. Put you down. Right. Now, you are over here. You are over here. But you. You're supposed to be... You're not supposed to be. So let's take that pin out for a second. Because... this looks wonky, frankly. So... that looks better. 1, 2, 3. That's good. 3 you. You go in there like that. Straightened you out. So you don't do an awful lot of this on the strip, and I think that really helps. With the whole speed, so you don't spend half your time looking at what you did the other day going, why is that tangled around there, where's that gone, why is that not twisted right? Because they always stay in a row, hence converting to strips. So let's pull out you, because you're definitely not needed. That's good, and I'm glad that you've got that. We all need someone who... an awful lot of people say you shouldn't need outside validation. If you don't have outside validation, you either end up really big-headed and believe that you are the answer to everything and everyone else is wrong, and you end up kind of like people we don't like. Or you believe you're shit at everything and that you can't do anything. And that anything that you have done must have been a fluke, right? You need the outside validation because you need to see from an outside perspective, is this what I thought? Now, like I've said, If you've just taken up knitting and you finally knitted your first square and you managed to do it without dropping any stitches, I will happily be pleased for you, because I know that when you first knit, it usually looks a bit like cat bath, and yeah, and you see, this is something that it takes someone who understands that kind of, you can love them because, they're your parents, but it doesn't mean you want to be with them. It doesn't mean you like them. It doesn't mean that you like everything about them. And the same's true with partners. You can love someone to pieces, but it doesn't make them perfect. And it is always difficult when, as I was saying though, you need someone from an outside perspective who can to be honest, I think deep down I know why my parents were like that. My dad was busy earning money to pay for the things for the house that we lived in, and when I turned out to have some musical skill, to buy me musical instrument, to pay for things. There was a bit of keeping up with the Joneses. There was, but basically he had to work more than one job for that. And he had some minor medical issues. I'm not going to say that he was truly as bad as he thought, because I remember laughing really hard at my dad one time, and my dad was very unhappy about it. But my dad always claimed, oh, I can't see without my glasses, oh, I can't live without my glasses, oh, I can't do this without my glasses, right? If my glasses were out by as much as my dad's prescription, I wouldn't be able to tell. My dad was so minimally short-sighted, he had the smallest diopter change that they make. Seriously, most of us would not notice that our vision was out at all at such a minor, pathetic amount. And yet he banged on about it, and of course, Mole here, I found it hysterical. My prescription's -6.5. At -10, you are legally blind, okay? My dad had -0.25. They only make diopters in 0.25 levels. You could see pretty damn fucking well without your glasses on, Dad. You really could. You've got near perfect fucking eyesight. What the hell are you on about? It's a bit like Miss Size Zero whining because she's gained a gram, right? It's kind of like, I realise it's a big deal for you, but as a child, I burst out laughing. Because, I'm sorry, Dad, my glasses can be out by that and I wouldn't notice. So, yeah, I wasn't a very sympathetic child in that respect, because, of course, he spent a fortune on glasses, because glasses aren't cheap, but realistically, he didn't need them. But he was convinced he needed them, so therefore he needed them, if you know what I mean. Now, I've got to be sure that I didn't just screw that up, because I think I did. Yeah, I did. So yeah, it is difficult. Parents can screw up their children very easily, and it is a responsibility. It is a responsibility that parents, I think, not everyone realises how screwed up their children can be by their own actions. And we're not talking deliberate actions. We are talking inadvertently it is the... I gave this example the other day. I was sitting in the doctor's waiting room a couple of years ago, and there was this poor little kid. He was being really well behaved, sitting on a chair, being a good boy, unlike most children in doctors' waiting rooms. And Dad was dicking on his phone. I don't know, playing Candy Crush or something. I don't know what he was doing. Daddy, and the taps on his leg. Daddy. And Daddy would ignore him, so a little bit later. Daddy, leave me alone. Or if that kid was about to wet himself and you're just fucking ignoring him, right? Because, of course, I bet you if the poor kid had, let rip in the middle of the, the waiting room, Daddy would have been really angry at the fact that the kid hadn't said anything about it. But this kid must have tried for over half an hour to get his father's attention. Politely, quietly. He wasn't going, "Ah!" as many children do. It was, Daddy, shut up. I really felt for the kid. That kid's going to have problems later in life because, I don't know which one of them needed to be at the doctor. Potentially it was a simple checkup and nothing exciting. But maybe it was something important. Maybe it was for the kid. But that kid, and so Daddy didn't really want to be there. Well, no one wants to go to the doctors, frankly. So, let's not pretend that that's a fun game for anybody. But this poor kid, watching it being ignored by its parents when it was so behaving compared to so many I've seen in there. People don't realise that being dismissed when you are on great behaviour, being told that you didn't try when you put blood, sweat and tears into it. Now maybe you did all the wrong things. Maybe your effort was trying to hold water from coming downhill. Maybe, so maybe it was ineffective. But you have to be so careful in how you phrase that criticism because it can shape people for life. And, by the time they get to work, if they've got a bit of an arsehole boss, well, again, arsehole boss using the same phrases that your parents used can really turn an employee that they could have worked with to someone they can't. Because if all you do is, I don't know, you're not trying. Well, I'm sorry, but say that to me one more time and I'll stop bothering. Because I put blood, sweat and tears into it. You're telling me I'm not trying. Well, I'll show you what not trying looks like, shall I? There is the stubborn bit of you that starts kicking in and the bit that tries to defend yourself to yourself, that tries to say, well, actually, I know I did try. Now, if you were caught with your pants down and you didn't try, your brain doesn't usually kind of go into defensive mode. It just kind of sulks, right? Because it realises that, no, I didn't try that hard, but I thought I got away with it. But when you tried really hard and someone says you didn't try, your brain will generally be a bit defensive. Now, admittedly, internally, you may not want to say anything directly to them, but you'll walk away with, oh, I won't fucking bother next time then. Next time you want a hand, I won't. Next time you scream about how no one wants to volunteer for that, well, it won't be me either. You go away with that kind of attitude. And after a while, you stop trying. And I recognise that in myself. I've definitely seen that in myself. In that I know I could do a whole load more, I could do a lot better, but I don't really want to. Because I'm tired of being told it's not enough. Why is it I've got to make up for the fact that no one else bothered, but they don't? Why is it always me? And, yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't sign up for that. And I know I've seen that in myself. It is difficult. And so it is important to celebrate things with other people. And I've done this at work for people who were really taken back by it. If someone helps me and it was not their job, I will thank them profusely. But depending on who they are, there are ways, where I work at least, to almost anonymously thank them in a slightly more formal but still informal manner. So where I worked, we had a system where you could volunteer someone to receive a payment for good effort, right? And it was a predetermined amount depending on, what this effort had achieved. So, for example, one guy, he spotted a huge security flaw. He quietly said something to me about how he didn't know anything about it, the thing that was causing the security flaw, but he'd seen this, so he showed me what it was, and I went, right. And I said, well, we can check that that's exactly what's happening. We'll go here and, right, okay, here's the log file. Yep, it says here that it's attached as that user, even though no proof that, okay. So it's kind of not doing what we thought. That's fine. Well, we'll Google this. Okay, it says here, go here, do that. Right, we can do that. And we walk through it. But he found it. He kept it quiet. He dealt with it as quick as humanly possible to prevent, further issues with the security issue. And he resolved it. And he could have left it because it wasn't his job. He didn't set it up. It wasn't his baby. He's not responsible for it. But he also knew that the guy who would do jack crap about it and blame everybody else because, well, that's kind of the world we live in. So we fixed it. And all I did was kind of go, no, I don't think that, no, it's not permissions thing. I think it's this. And, we'll go and have a look at that. And because I'd done stuff very much like it, but not exactly that thing, right? And he was appreciative because I sat with him and helped him. But I didn't really help. I was more the voice of conscience on his shoulder of, well, maybe we should look up that. Maybe, if we Google this, maybe that'll happen. Okay, point. Go and have a look in here. That's where the log files live, because I at least knew where the log files were. No, he could have done it without me. It might have taken a little bit longer, but he could have done it without me. So I volunteered him for one of these payments. And I did marginally stretch the truth. It wasn't really a stretch the truth, because, well, the questions that you had to fill in were basically, was it an easy or a complex task? Well, if it's something you don't know, that makes it complex. Dick. Was it one site or multiple? Well, definitely multiple site, because it affected at least 6. Tick. How many people? Some's, this many, or this many. Well, it's this many. Tick. So I think it gave him £100. But that's the kind of thing, is that, and he took me aside later and he went, did you fill in one of those things? And I went, I may have. You know, oh, thank you for that, because he got physical quids for it. And, his manager had to approve for him to get them. So from that point of view, it's not that it was totally under the radar. But at the same time, boss obviously said yes, recognising that the guy had done it, because you had to write a little bit about what was done. And, the boss man was obviously understood that this guy had done something that was, not his job, because the first thing I wrote was, it's not so-and-so's job, and yet he discovered this. He then set about immediately to resolve it, despite this not being his area of expertise. And he was persistent to make sure that it was dealt with before anything else. And, all of those kind of things, he went out of his way to make sure that it didn't persist and didn't just ignore it like everybody else, right? Because after all, douche who put it in didn't check it. And, so he got £100 for it. And I've done that a few times because it was the right thing to do. And it was the right thing to do to say thank you to someone who repeatedly does these sorts of things, but isn't normally noticed for doing it. So I wouldn't do it every time for them, because otherwise that just gets stupid. But, they were really quite frantic, because we was a really big hole. But they were so determined to fix it even though it wasn't their bag, but because, you know, safety of the world kind of depended on it, sort of thing. And this is too many. 1, 2, 3, 4. You should not be here. Oh, I fucked it up again. Oh, for goodness sake, Kimber. You really are stupid. I wish there was a way to just extract out the fucked up ones from the beginning of a row. Oh, I am. In this case, I am being stupid because this is a mistake I made only like yesterday. I have not learned from my mistake. That makes me stupid. And I know exactly what I've done. This pair should have been pushed up here out the way, so I didn't use it. So I used it. And, well, now I've got too many because it's the wrong side of the pin. And I can't really frig it being on the other side of the pin. So I have to go back to here. And once again, we... Take care, mister. Right, you need to fuck off. Right. Now, you need to fuck off. Right. Take care. You're always welcome to drop in, and even if all you would do is lurk, you're always welcome, my friend. Right. That should be 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. See? Now we've got the right number. Oh, itchy nose. Right. Pin. Oh, ooh. That was a bit weird. So I sat up and pushed my elbows back to kind of stretch my back a little bit. And I sat up straight, but that's like a movement, I don't know, 10 degrees of my pelvis. The underneath of my hip, not overly adjusted by this, suddenly went, yow! What? What's wrong with you now? You may recall I was mumbling the other day about my hip being grumpy. It's the same one. It's very good at grumpy, and to be fair, it has good reason. So for those of you who are not aware, not that my medical history is public knowledge particularly, but I do mention it, or mention bits of it. I had a car accident in 1991, and the result of the car accident in 1991 resulted in me breaking my right hip and losing about 4 inches of bone in my leg, which got replaced with a metal pin until the bone reformed around it. And then they discovered they fitted it wrong, so I had to remove it. They were originally supposed to leave it in forever. During which time, because it had been fitted incorrectly, the metal pole that goes down, and it's not like a... There's 2 ways of doing a metal pole on a leg. 3. 1 is an outside fixator. It wasn't on the outside. 2 is an internal fixator, where you run a secondary pole with, like, scaffolding around a building. The other one is kind of concrete reinforcement style. You have a metal pole down the middle. And what they do for that is they pop your hip out, apple core down the middle of it, shove said metal pole in, and your metal pole now forms the inner of your leg, which is what they did to mine. And then they screw it in at top and bottom so that it doesn't just slide out the bottom. And it forms reinforcement down your bone. But that works only on one condition. if you think of the top of your bone as kind of a this shape, so where my thumbs are is kind of, there's kind of like a little nook kind of thing, because bones generally are that sort of shape. Where they put the pole was down here in the middle. Well, what they did was when the pole was done, it sat proud. So the metal pole gouged away at my pelvis every time I moved it. And they wondered why I said it hurt. Anyway, it hurt for 2 years, to the point that standing was very, very painful, because bone on bone is painful, even though it has no direct nerve endings. It is painful. Going uphill was unbearably painful. Downhill, not so much. Uphill, very much. And anyway, after 2 years, due to ongoing particular lawsuit, as it turned out, my x-rays had been sent off for something, and on one particular hospital visit, we haven't had your notes back, so we haven't got your x-ray. Go to x-ray and have some more taken. And the guy doing the x-ray clearly was a different guy to normal, and took it from a slightly different angle. Upon which, it became hugely apparent, as they all sort of broke into a sweat, that the pole had not been pushed in far enough. And immediate plans were made to remove it. So clearly, they realised they screwed it up. But of course, the whole time that it had been painful, my left hip had spent 2 years being basically a peg leg, because my right leg was just really annoying. So if I ever stood, I had purely weight on my left hip. And for those of you, obviously, who may have done something similar at some point, if you stand leaning only with weight on one leg, the strain that you put on your hip and your leg is quite considerable. And so, well, after 2 years of making up for the other one, it's kind of like it's almost 4 years older than it should be. Because not only did it have its 2 years of wear and tear, it had the other leg's 2 years of wear and tear kind of multiplied together. And so as a result, it's kind of pissy these days. It doesn't like the fact that it had to bear the brunt. And although it, at the time, it didn't complain about it, it does now a lot. Especially when the weather is changeable, like it is at the moment. So, for example, this week we've had severe thunderstorms to the point of thunder, lightning, death, doom and destruction. We've also had roastingly warm days. And by next weekend, we're back to the cold and wet again. And for anyone who has broken things and done sufficient damage to their body, they will absolutely attest that in these kind of moments, your body tends to remind you of all of those things that you did. All those bits of... Oh, Nautical, are you still around? Or has he gone to sleep? He's allowed to go to sleep, it's 1 o'clock in the morning, but... Nautical, are you still there? Oh, Nautical, I've got something to show you. Hang on, let me go get it. Let me go get it. I'm laughing, so you probably know what it is already. No, don't be so daft, Nautical. No, no. Cardboard box doesn't make Liz laugh. No. What a snake! I've got 4 of them. My water snakes have arrived. apologise to anyone in advance, but my water snake... my water snake's arrived. Yay! So I have a pink one, a blue one, a piss yellow one, and a kind of white one. My water snakes have arrived, and I can play with my water snake. How do I say this without... it's a bit TMI, but it kind of has a condomy feel to it. It's kind of got a coating of slimy-ish, but not. But anyway. Hey, oh my god, my water snake! And he slides and runs away. Usually they slide at me, which is terrible. But my water snakes have arrived. Yeah. Never mind. My insanity has left the building. Yeah, my water snakes have arrived. I finally own and can keep, and no one will be around to take them away from me, my water snake. It does a little, yeah. And as you know, all I really ever do with them is put them in my hand and wiggle backwards and forwards. So, even more so. But, they don't tend to slide away from me so much. They tend to slide towards me. Oh, that's why it feels funny. It's got like an elastic... It feels... And I'm not going to pick at it because it'll probably destroy it. I'm not going to sure it will show. I assume it's the join. There's like a little join on it. So they're not like seamless. Now obviously they're not ever going to be totally seamless. But... it's kind of got almost like a sellotape waistband. Yeah. My water snakes. Oh dear. Yeah. I hadn't forgotten them, but I'd been doing the PoE thing, so I'd left them in the kitchen, out of the way. Now, I'd taken them out of the box, because they came in crappy elastic packages. But it suddenly dawned on me, now that the PoE thing's over, and I was talking to you, well, indirectly, that's interesting. So if you watch this corner here, as it kind of goes back, it bends round. The waistband is kind of here. So the waistband does affect how it kind of slides. Which is kind of weird. Anyway, yeah, I'm 52, going on 5. Bite me. For those who do not understand the water snake thing, I had one when I was a child. I saved up for it because my parents certainly were never going to buy me one. And I always wanted one because they were all the rage in the 80s and 70s and 80s. Christ, it was barely the 80s when I did this. But my mother and I went on a venture coach holiday day trip thing to the Isle of Wight, and I bought me a water snake with my own money, and my mother didn't have a lot of say in the matter because, well, it's my own money. She can't really tell me not to. That's right, this knot's gone a bit funky, so I need to mess with it. And next morning, I was very pleased with it. Brought it home. My father looked at it with disdain as it was an uneducational toy. First thing on the news, pretty much, anyone who bought a water snake from the following areas needs to turn it in at the police station because the water inside it is contaminated and they will arrange for disposal. So I bought it. I don't even think I'd got to play with it yet. It was still kind of in the box kind of deal. And my mother took it down the police station and she came back with a foul look on her face because the police hadn't wanted to touch it in case they catch something, right? And of course it's a child's toy, and so... Oh, I did one of those. But you see, this is the funny thing. If you think of many of the things that gave you huge joy as a child, they were really simple pieces of shit. They really were. I mean, one of the things that in our office we often talked about some of the generation gap kind of principle was that if you took people of our generation and people of more current generation, i.e. the iPad generation, if you plonked us in an empty warehouse hang on. Whirly tubes. Anyway, we all remember some simple stuff, and as I say, if you sat as if you took, say, 10 people of our generation, the making up games all summer, and it had more bloody rules than AD&D ever did by the end of summer. Exactly, bubble wrap. I mean, 15 years of your life spent, especially with the really small bubbles. But if you took people of our generation, put them in an empty warehouse with like a handful of cardboard boxes the other end. If it was totally empty with no cardboard boxes, we would probably take our socks off and start playing indoor rounders. Cardboard boxes would make a fort. We would race them round the floor. If we had office chairs, for fuck's sake, there would be serious chair races. We, within about 15 minutes, children of the iPad generation would melt. Because many of them have never had to entertain themselves with literally nothing much to show for it. I mean, how many of you played rounders, stroke, baseball, same kind of shit, softball, by putting down jumpers? Oops. But that's partly because you were, and you started it off, right? But an awful lot of babies, the ones that were babies, the first thing mummy did was plonk an iPad playing cartoons at them and go about her day. For those children, they wouldn't know what to do. And yet, how many of you played rounders, softball, baseball, whatever, by using jumpers and a rolled up pair of socks as a ball and your hand as a bat? I mean, God forbid you actually had a tennis ball or a... But if you had literally nothing, jumpers and cardigans, shoes as bases, and a pair of socks, gloves if you were really lucky, usually socks, as a ball. Well, in some ways that's really healthy because it means that they will grow up with an imagination. And one of the things that I've noticed, and I think it's part of the reason I get really frustrated with, I've mentioned a couple of times about how I always find it difficult when I'm made to document something that I had to work out, but no one else has to. No one else has to put any effort in. It's always me. I've got to work it out and then document it for everybody else. And there is, in my mind, there is the, well, I'm sorry, but... Hang on. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's right. Why have I got to work it out? Why is it that you expect me to be able to work it out? And that doesn't look right. But why is it that, you know, I'm expected to work it out, but no one else is? Why have I then got to write it down to a level that, you know, frankly, Rory could do it, when I'm in the same position as everyone else? I've not seen this shit before. You know, it's not my bag, but somehow I've got to work it out, and yet you don't. Why not? Why is that a thing? And again, that doesn't seem right. Okay, you are. That's right. And I find that very difficult, and it's something that I really struggle with at work. Not because I disagree with doing documentation. There is chunks of me that kind of, but I find it difficult. I find myself torn. It's a bit like my indecision problems. I don't disagree with me writing down how to do something, but if I've got to write it down so that, please open Windows RDP. You will then type in your username. It should look like this. It is the one that you use for this, 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 and this. Then type in your username and click OK. If I've got to do this, please don't log into my servers because you'll fuck them up. If you don't even know how to log in, get off. Go away. You're in the wrong job, you know. And so I don't object to logging, you know, writing things down. You know, so if I do something a bit weird and, you know, I know it's something I've written or something that, you know, you wouldn't expect necessarily everyone to have experienced. And so, you know, when doing this, please don't use this option, or please don't use this product. This will overwrite, you know, do not do this. It will overwrite something important. Please do this instead, right? I have no problem with writing those forms of documentation. It is the, I've never used a computer before, please tell me what Windows looks like, please draw pictures of everything, please, you know, and if it deviates one character, I'm going to come crying, right? Because we all know people do not read this level of documentation. For they will ask you anyway, and that's always been my problem, is that if I'm going to write that down, and I'm going to write it down to that level so that you literally, monkey see, monkey do, here is a picture, do not then come to me and ask me how to do it, because it's on the piece of paper. If you could not follow the piece of paper for some reason, please explain to me how the following instructions are lacking when it is literally key by key. You need to explain to me how you could not do this before I will want to help you, because, well, it's already written down. I spent time, effort and all the rest of it writing it down to such a pathetically, insultingly low level that, you know, and now you're not even reading it. What the fuck, right? So I do struggle with that, and I realise that. I really, really do. And I realise this is not one of my favourite, you know, tendencies in the workplace. But at the same time, I'm not against writing it down, because I won't always remember what I did 5 years later. If you don't do it very often, when it comes back round, will I remember? Actually, yes, I will, but that's not the point, right? I'm also really good at making what seems like obscure predictions as to what the problem is. If I ever say, I think it's this, I'm pretty much right. Okay? Time has proved over the last nearly 40 years that if I say, I think it's this, don't bother wasting your time looking at anything else. I will be right. Even if it is the most obscure thing you have ever done. Now, this came to fruition very early on. Back in the days of IBM PS2 PCs, right? When Windows was not born yet, right? Well, it was, but it was Windows like 1 and it sucked and didn't run. Right? Got a phone call from a user one day. My computer's not working because IBM PS2s, when they didn't like the world, they just came up with a big no entry symbol with the word with like basically on it, and that was it. It was basically your phone IBM, right? And so they phoned me, Liz, my computer's not working. Are you wearing a cardigan? This is the almost word for word the conversation. Are you wearing a cardigan? I said, first of all, it's like, can you beat it for me? Yeah. Okay. Are you wearing a cardigan? Yeah. Alright, pull the cardigan down over your hand. Right, and hold on to it. Put your hand on the keys and rub it all backwards and forwards really hard. What the fuck? Just go with it. Now try turning your computer on. Oh, it works now, thank you. I'd heard that it was going beep, 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 beep. One of the keys was stuck. But rather than trying to explain to him a poke each everyone, just rub it with your cardigan. Got a phone call one day. Someone had the company laptop. Liz, it's not working. Okay, turn it off, right? Pick it up, yeah. Shake it like you want to shake the most hated person in your life. What? Just do it. Shakety, 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 shakety. Try turning it on. Oh, it works now. That's alright, I heard a loose screw in it the other day. You know, these things seem really random, but they're not. And we had one this week. All of our servers fell off the network. Well, they didn't. They just couldn't see anything else. I knew exactly what it was. Instantly. It wasn't my thing. I hadn't changed it. I didn't break it. But I knew exactly what it was. And I was right. Funny that. We had, not that long ago, we got an emergency. This software's not working for everybody. Okay. What's the symptom? Well, we're trying to do this and it says this. Okay. Well, what's that connecting to? I don't know. You're the fucking app owner. You must know what it's connecting to. Fine, whatever. When it says can't connect to localhost, children, what does this tell you? Anyone in IT should have answered, whatever it was looking for on your local machine isn't running. My boss had a huge go at me. How can you say that? Well, because it says localhost. Huh? And hours later, the dude whose job it was, and why are there? Oh, you're around. It's alright. This is right, but the threads are around the wrong side of the pin. Just need to. They're not wrong. They're just not right in the right place. There they are. And it's not because they're coming out of the wrong bit. It's just for some reason. There we go. Right. But we get it all the time. People kind of go, you can't make an assumption like that. Well, I can. It says localhost. And when you're running it on a PC, that means something that it was looking for on your PC isn't running. If you ran it on a server, well, it's something on the server. It's kind of how it works. I can make those assumptions. And of course I was right. Turned out someone they'd run an update for Java or something, and it had fucked his local copy of this particular application. When he did finally get round to rebooting it like we asked him to, it all mysteriously started working again. As I predicted. My boss hated me for that. You can't make these assumptions. Well, I can. I can go into the log on my machine and see that Java's been updated. I don't use Java, therefore I don't care. But I can see that a Java rollout has occurred. I I can see on his screen that he's running Java type shit, and it says localhost, which says his local machine. He confirmed that that was his PC, not on a server, so it is on his PC. I can make those assumptions. That's why you pay me money, because I know these things. Yeah, didn't win friends that day. There's always logic to it. There always is. But people don't like it. It's a bit like explaining magician tricks, I guess. When explained, they're not half as impressive, you know. But yeah. Oh. Ah, dear. So I'm just looking back at some of the stuff we're revealing for the obligatory how much did I screw up. And I'm pretty sure I see some screw ups, so, you know, normal service is underway, you know. I'd have to take a really good look. But there seems to be, if I zoom in on it, I might be able to see. Hang on. Dink. Is it obvious? Let me make my thing bigger than 2 inches on my screen. Yep. It doesn't look so bad there, actually. It's kind of weird. It looks... Yeah. But this is the thing. I think so many of the things that we had as children. She says, looking down here now, there seems to be some really screwed up shit here. I need to check what's going on behind some of these threads, actually. Hang on, let's have a look. Just want to see. Okay. Yeah, it's okay. I'm going to move that pin there. I can't see. I'm going to try and use the camera to poke it in the right hole. I want that in a hole. There. Like that. There we go. Just to give that back some stability. Yeah, there is a fuck up. Look. Where's Pokey Stick? Scene one. Miss. Look. What's going on here? There's some shenanigans. Where is it? There. Can't quite work out what it is. There's a loop. It's another loop. It's another wretched little loop of freedom, look. It's a loop of I got tied round somebody else's pin. See, look. Now, he does that go downwards. I don't think it does. What it might do, it might come out down here. Now, that's going to be difficult to get at, but we can see it shouldn't go downwards. It should go across, which means we can't fix it. But if it does go downwards, we can fix it. So, let's carefully unpack some of you over my live movable tangleable bobbins, because we need to get down to the first pack. So let's move you around like this, gently out the way, and see if pulling on one of you, that's not you, and it's not you. So the answer is no. We can't fix it. Well, isn't that annoying? Oh well, yet another mistake for the collection. Because I ain't going back that far. Right. Oh look, bad time. Over there. Okay. So, let's make you a bit shorter because you're a bit longer. Right. Let's see. Still about half and half. Okay. You need to be that way around. You are too long. Let me get back to normal picture. Okay. Shorter. We shall see you on the other side of the ads in about 90 seconds. So. See, that's not right somehow. That doesn't feel right. It's not. made the same mistake again, people. Getting fed up of doing this. I really am. And I really don't quite see how I'm getting so good at doing it wrong. It's not like I haven't had the practice. As you can see from this, right? This pair comes down that line. This pair comes down that line. There's a whole line in between. If I zoom in again and go across, you'll see a bit more what I mean. I forgot to throw a pair out on a line. Again. I'm getting fed up of doing this. I'm getting fed up of making this mistake and having to redo bits. I'm getting sick of them just getting longer. Oh, how awesome. Oh, that's pretty cool. It's also very similar in a way to the drainpipe paddle things, where they playing tunes on those. It's kind of the same principle after all. Yeah, like the Blue Men. Yeah. It is basically the same theory after all, but yeah. I'm getting so fed up of having to shorten bobbins all the time and repeatedly undoing these sections of cloth stitch because I fucked them up. I'm getting very, very frustrated with this. Nothing else, because pulling out pins seems to get harder and harder, not easier and easier. It's very easy to pull out the wrong ones. Just stay shorter, for fuck's sake. Stop. I know these are the worker pair, but you know, when you look like this one, it's gone off the bottom of the camera because it suddenly got longer. It's getting really, really, really irritating. And Naughty Kel, I know you're listening, but the half hitch can fuck off. It's a shit knot for this. And why is it the traditional knot for this? Because it's shit. I mean, it's good so that you can pull on it to make it shorter and longer, but it... No, it's not a knot, it's a shit. That's what it is. I know it's a twist. It's not a knot, but they call it a knot, so... But it just can fuck off. It's a terrible thing to use for this. As I say, it's really good in the sense that I can make my bobbins longer and shorter, but at the same time, it's no use to me if it's constantly doing it by itself. I need it to do it when I need it to be longer and shorter, not when it wants to be longer and shorter, you know? So you, my dear bobbins, should not have been part of this. You should have buggered off by this point. 1, 2, 3, 4. But you see, that's not the right amount of bobbins, which means I had already gone wrong at this point. Suggesting I did not add. I did not. Stay the fuck shorter, for Christ's sake. Some of it is because these threads are looser, and so they provide looseness when it's at rest, and then the moment you pick it up and apply even the remotest bit of tension, the actual knot, for want of another word, is just kind of goes, oh, well, there's more to give, here you go. I don't want there to be more to give. They're not supposed to be more to give at this time. So let's try this again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Make you shorter because you're longer suddenly again. See, this is where anyone who says this needs patience, it's not fucking patience. It's the ability to keep repeatedly doing the same thing without going insane. That's not patience, that's stubborn. And again, you're too long. And yes, I know I fixed you earlier, and now you're even longer, and I still haven't actually got hold of the end. See, when they were over the other side, these ones didn't look too long. Now they're over this side, now they do, you know? This is why I end up the whole time making them shorter, because this one is suddenly off the screen again. And it's like... just winds me up because there doesn't seem to be anything that I can do to stop it. I've tried all of the people who've gone, oh, well, if you've got a slippery yarn, do this. No. If you've got to try doing this. No. Try doing this. No. None of them have helped. Whether it's doing 2 of them, whether it's doing, you know, twisting it around more and having an extra bit. Because you may recall I tried that one, which was that when you, let's use this bobbin as it's shitty, right? When you do the half hitch, normally you make a loop by twisting it towards itself, so that the outside comes the inside when you wrap it over, so it's crossed over like that, and you put the cross over the top. Well, one of them, they suggested wrapping that round again, but it doesn't help. Somehow it doesn't make it slow down. It just... Oh, we'll do two of them. Well, yeah, I can. And somehow it still doesn't help. The only thing that would help it was if I super glued the stupid thing on it. And then, of course, can't move it. So. This is why the sin hats became a thing. Because it held it tight against the bobbin. And so it didn't matter whether it was slack below or not. It was not so tight that you couldn't, but it was tight enough that, and obviously being rubbery, slightly frictiony, that it didn't just slide straight through it. Which I think is part of the reason that the strips are a lot quicker, is because the strips have sin hats, because they are a bobbin type that can take a sin hat without basically being really irritating. Because these wouldn't really take sin hats, because they haven't really got anywhere for the sin hat to live. I need to sort the uneven thread out on here, because the loop that's sticking up is driving me mad. Even though it's not doing anything, because I've got no patience right now, or tolerances left. The fact that it's sticking up and there's a loop on it, even though it was quite far back, by the way, still just kind of screams. And before you ask, well, how did it get there? Because it can. Because threads do that. That's what they do. It's a bit like the line of Thor, that's what heroes do. Now that's what threads do. They do it to piss you off. So I now need an extra pair of bobbins. And you look like the wrong pair, but you're not. You just look like the wrong pair. These look like it should go in the line above, but they're not, so that's okay. There we go. That feels like too many. 1, 2, 3, 4. No, it's just you're getting longer again. Which is why I thought you were the last pair, because it does seem to be, and I think I mentioned this before, I swear if statistically one of you was keeping tally, because obviously I'm in the middle of it and, unlikely to be able to do so. But if every time I took a pair of bobbins and I shorted only one, I would almost bet my arse it's always the left one. And I don't understand why. Because it always seems to be the left one of a pair that gets longer the most. It's not that the right one doesn't, because occasionally it doesn't. But it does seem to be that it's nearly always the left one that is, she says, as this one's the right one, but if you were to keep tally, I would swear it's 80% left. Very occasionally is it right. When there's only one. Sometimes it's both, in which case that's slightly different, because last time you used it you were at a different point in the pattern sort of thing. But I swear if you kept tally, you would find it is 80%. It's certainly primarily the left one of a pair that needs adjustment. See, this one is the left one. And once again, the left one on the pale one is too long. So that's 2 for left and 1 for right already, see? As I said, I seem to make random statements, but I'm not usually wrong. Even though I have not directly been counting them. This one's a bit of a both, so it doesn't count. Bring you down and make you a bit longer so we can put... See, this is why when they've been somewhere else they don't count, because sometimes I have to make them longer so that I can put them in a stick and park them out the way without driving myself insane. Getting back 8. What time is it? It's only 2 o'clock. It's not too bad. Let me just respond to this thing on my phone. I'm going to report you. Now, normally, people who know me know I'm really into Harry Potter. So if I got a thing saying request from Harry Potter to do something, you would think that I would be all for it. I do not expect a direct message of, did you put your name in the You Know the Rest? The new Goblin of Fire collection is available on the Harry Potter shop. I did not ask for your contact. I do not follow you on Facebook, especially when you're called Fantastic Gifts and where to find them. You are spam, my friend. Piss off. There's enough spam in the world without you joining in. See, look how much longer this one is. It's off the screen. You can't really see how much, but if I look at it, look how much longer this one is. Look, right off the bottom of the screen. Bad bobbin. The left one's trying, but not as much. But that was another pair. This one's a right one. But look how mangled this one looks. So I'm going to unhook you. And I'm going to rewind some of you. Now, for those wondering how you end up like this, it's because as you wind it on kind of in a backwards and forwards kind of motion, trying to triangularly keep a cone shape out of it. Well, of course, what it does mean is that if for some reason it decides to, and some of the top has a bit of a landslide, well then it's baggy around the top and starts causing mayhem, which is what this one's done. You go about here somewhere. Now, I need to see you have come off your pin. You're supposed to be around there, like that. Right. 4, 5, 6. Let's put you in there. Well, let's get back to what we were doing when we discovered I'd fucked it up in the first place. So, good, and all out pins. So we are back where we started. This certainly seems to happen more with the square than it ever did with any of the strips so far. It's not that we didn't make issues on the strip, but we didn't seem to they were much more minor issues generally with the strip, which generally means then that, well, they're more likely to be better quality at the end of it as well. So not only does it take less time, I seem to picking up less. So surely this can only be a good thing by changing to strips. So another good reason to do the strips. I do think, however, when we get to the bottom of this section, we will call it a day, which means that there's not a lot to do tomorrow, but there is some, so we will do that. Tomorrow, depending on how well it goes and whether my bits have arrived and what time I stream and all of the other multitude of questions in life, if all the bits have arrived, we can primarily look at trying to see if we can make one of the bobbins. So although I've got 100, or bits I believe enough to make 100, I'm also not expecting their counting to be entirely accurate. I'm also not expecting to make actually 100 bobbins out of it accurately. I imagine that there will be one that the first one I make will probably turn into a nightmare because, well, it's the first and all of those kind of things. So we shall see. And as I said, I don't know where my craft knife is, so I'm not quite sure how I'm going to go about trimming them down a bit. And I've just suddenly had a thought, actually. Hang on. Why is it if there's the wrong button on a screen, I'm not going to say, oh no, I did order enough. Okay. I suddenly had a thought that I maybe didn't order enough. Did I really only ever order one of those? What? Oh no, I did. That's right. Well, anyway, I did also order some sandpaper, just to kind of maybe lightly reduce them by a few atoms so that I can get the beads on, because while the end beads can be kind of hammered on a little bit, if I want to slide some slightly up a little bit, so like we were talking at the bottom, I don't know, it said fine, it doesn't really matter. It didn't say. It actually didn't say. It just said fine. It says taking her glasses off again. Hang on. Check, it still says it's coming. It says it's all arriving today, so still, anyway, at this point. It says 10 large A4 sheets of medium grade sandpaper. It was actually supposed to be fine. Thanks for that, Amazon. For wood, furniture, metal. I'm good with sandpaper. I'm fine with medium. Medium's fine. I just won't press very hard, you know. I just need to lightly scuff. Yeah, it just kind of goes medium. It doesn't. So they're probably shit, but that's fine because I didn't really need 10 of them at A4 size to work on tiny ass little bobbins. So, but it is supposed to be for smoothing surface imperfections and all the rest of it. Not, you know, it's not to polish it because that's fine. It's not what we're doing with it. So, Nah, it'll be fine. Once again, Amazon search stuff pisses me off. Seriously, when you go to Amazon and say, I want a 60mm long bolt. Well, here's some 30s, here's 120, here's a 6mm. No, I said 60mm. I need that to appear in your data. Don't be giving me no rando shit, because I think I said this the other day, I even ended up on Amazon support once, moaning about it, because, I was trying to find something, and for some reason I think it was bolts, and I think it was for weaving, and the girl was like, oh, what about these? I know, let's say I needed I needed it to be 10 centimetres long, 6mm wide. And she goes, what about these? Well, they're not 10cm long. Oh, yeah. What about these? Well, they're not 6mm wide. Oh, yeah. What about these? Well, they're half the size of everything. Oh, yeah. This is exactly my point, woman. You're, on behalf of Amazon, you are Amazon today, whether you work for them or not, on, you're some outsourced company, but you're on behalf of Amazon today. I phoned you up complaining because I'm trying to find something and I'm struggling because the stupid search thing is driving me insane, and you're basically having the same problem but claiming you don't see the problem. Do you not get the fact that you've suggested to me like 8 different products now, and not a single one of the ones that you've suggested? I know what it was. It was bee sticks. So for those who don't understand, if you think of the innards of these cones, these are tubes, and for weaving on your weaving shuttle, you require a tube to attach your thread to, because of course it's not this shit and you can't just put one of these in it, right? Because usually it's the bigger stuff and you can't put this through your work. So you want tubes very much like this, but in this case I was after a 6-inch long tube, but basically 6-inch one of these would have been fine. And every time I searched for, 15 centimetres, 6 inches, it would come back with 6mm. Well, that's no fucking good. It's not big enough. What about this? Oh, no. That's only 3 inches long. And what about this? It was never the stuff that I needed. And she almost couldn't understand, despite offering, 8 different products. And the moment I'd say to her, yeah, but that's not this. Oh, yes, no, so I see. Well, what about this? Yeah, but that's also not it. Oh, yes, so I see. She wasn't paying attention herself, and I've done it clearly today. I searched for fine grit sandpaper, and it's given me a bloody medium one. The reason I clicked on it was because it was only 10 sheets of it, and I didn't need a lot. And it was pretty cheap. It was like £1.89, so I'm really not that bothered. But you're sitting there going, this is why I hate it. If I search for size 6 shoes, I don't want 7, 4, 8, 12. I want size 6 shoes, because they're the ones that will fit my feet. Yes, I am a size 6. Well, ish. Bit like women's clothing. Ish. Depends on whose they are. Sometimes I'm bigger, sometimes I'm smaller. Usually 5.5 or a 6. But you're sitting there going, when I say that's the size I want, that's the size I want. I don't care if it's an abnormal size. If I want size 32 shoes, I expect you to say, there ain't none. Not, here's a pair of size 2 shoes. Because they clearly ain't going to fit on my feet. Not that I have size 32, but, well, not even in metric, not even in the European. I think I'm 29 in European sizing, so, yeah. Whatever it is. Was it 31? Who knows? Right, anyway. But it is that kind of principle. It's that if you search for something and you cite a size or a colour or a substance, that, Google can manage it. Google can search the entire internet. If I say I want to see, I don't know, lace bobbin made stuff of I don't know, pink with a picture of a flower on it, it pretty much can start off with at least those being the ones at the top, and then a bit further down, it's where it gets into the, well, they sort of are in the right direction, but we're not entirely sure. Fine. But the first ones, and you can give it preferences, so you can give it quotes. It must say this. And then at the bottom it will say does not contain, and you can click on it and say must, and it will go off and find the things that do actually say that. Amazon, can you please get on board with the I want this but I don't want that options? We need to be able to say, but I don't. I mean, I was searching for beads, metal beads. So why was I getting men's underwear? First of all, I'm female. Secondly, I don't have a man in my life other than Rory, and, well, he doesn't wear underwear. So, don't really need men's Y fronts. Well, they weren't white, but, basically, but you're sitting there, I don't want men's underwear. What in God's name possessed you to think I want men's underwear? I have never searched for men's underwear. Searched for many things in my time and regret occasionally some of them, but by the way, never search for dog muzzles on Amazon, but because of course it sees the words muzzle and finally comes back with human ones. Let's just leave it at that. So, and things that you might also wear with the muzzles. Not good for my work search history, that was for sure. But you find yourself going, when I say I want, I know, blue shoes, then give me fucking blue shoes. I don't know, I do have sandpaper somewhere else, Naughty Cal. I just don't know where it is off the top of my head. Well, actually, I do know roughly where it is. Kind of under the middle of Mount Crapmore, so I've ordered more sandpaper because, well, I'm more likely to find that. Finding the middle centre of Mount Crapmore in time is not going to happen. I mean, I know exactly roughly where it is. Well, I know it's a bit Irish, exactly roughly where it is. I know where it should be. Depends how hard and much you're going to rub it, is the short answer. It'll be fine. It's perfectly good for what I want. I mean, Christ alive, I was going to use a nail file, so, because that's also a potentially optional thing. I've got a couple of nail files that I can use, and when I mean nail files, I mean big sticky ones. I know they've got a rough side and a slightly smoother side. If it comes down to it, I'll use one of them. So, it's really not a big problem. Haven't got any. Right. That's right, something's not right here and my brain's farting. Let's try that. That's better. To be honest, medium will be fine because all I'm really hoping to do is take it down a few atoms. So all I will really do is kind of chop off a bit of sandpaper about that wide and go twist, and that'll be it. That's all I really want it for. I'm not exactly trying to smooth down my house with it, so it'll be fine. I am much experienced with sandpaper. I can use big grit sandpaper for small grit things. Although I did honestly believe I was selecting fine, but there we go. As I say, clearly Amazon did one of its. Here's some fine stuff. Yeah, I don't really need 250 fucking sheets of it. Here's 10. Oh, great. 10's right. Yeah, what it kind of hid gently was that the 10 were not the same, anything like the same as the 250 you were looking at. And I mean, it's my own fault for not paying attention. You really would think I'd learn by now. But having you not noticed from this, I'm really good at making the same mistakes. So, you know, let's not pretend that that's not a thing. My thumb's hurting now. So are you. Never really done anything to you. Done something to the other one. Never really done anything to you. You've only ever had... I think it's because I keep flicking them with my thumb. I think it's getting a bit pissy with that. But after 7 months, you'd have thought it'd be used to it by now. Maybe it's some of the game playing I've been doing's kind of aggravated it a bit. It's probably more likely. I know that I played EverQuest a lot when EverQuest was much bigger in the society than it is today. Because most people haven't heard of it. They've only really heard of WoW now. I played lots of characters for many hours a day. I'm talking like up to 20 a day. When I, you know, if I was not at work, 20 a day was fine. It was only when I started playing, there were 2 characters that really offended my hands. One was... But the first one that did it was when I was a gnome necro. And I started in Akanon, or whatever it's called, just off down there, and where the gnome city is. I can't remember what it's called, but I thought it was something like Akanon. Anyway, because you started in the furthest fucking darkest depths of the thing, you had to run like 3 zones to get out, or at least that's how it feels. There was an awful lot of twisty turnies. And I was using this hand, and it really aggravated these 2 fingers. And to the point, I got to a point I couldn't play. Because it made my hand hurt so much. So I stopped playing that character for a while. As you do. And all was alright. Mainly because I always played EverQuest with a combination between cursor controls with this hand, mouse pointing with this, so that it was not one hand purely responsible for a job. It took effort from both, so the load was shared between both, so one didn't get overly more tired than the other. Now, some games don't allow for this. In fact, most modern games don't allow for it. Path of Exile doesn't really allow for it. You still use this hand for skills, but only while fighting. This hand is mainly for the movement. Well, it is if you use mouse anyway. If you try and do it with keyboard, then this hand basically does everything while this hand has a nap. And that's generally not a good plan. So I've been using the mouse, so it's a bit of a load sharing environment. But I do wonder if I've been slightly pissing it off by... And I've been going the wrong way. I meant to go down. Let's go down. By playing Path of Exile, I wonder if I've reawakened it. No, we're not playing games forever again, are we? Yes, you haven't exactly stopped playing games, hands. You should have been aware of that by now. But I have. As I say, I was up till 4:30 yesterday. And I did, as I say, I did achieve a personal best, so we're happy about that. But, and of course I played again today. Continuing where I left off. Well, the many times that I left off, because I died a few times. I died once. I think I died twice yesterday, and then went to bed. As I said, I did really well on the first run. Was really proud of myself. The second run was very short-lived. I mean, I didn't die at level 2 on the beach, unlike somebody else, but it wasn't far off. I died like 2 zones over, so it's not much better. Especially when one of the zones in the middle is a town with no fighting in it, so yeah, it's really not a lot better. Died to the stupid worm, as I recall, for some reason, which was a bit of a surprise because I've normally got that one down. Usually I'm done. I definitely come to the conclusion with Path of Exile that with the right RNG, I'm alright. And now, it doesn't have to be amazing RNG in my favour, but it does have to be, you know, on the better end than the average end. So average, normal, white loot stuff is not going to have me survive. I need some reasonably good drops to occur, preferably in the in the kind of weapon variety. Well, actually, it's a choice. Either give me great fat loot of armour so that I can survive prolonged fights, or something that makes my fights short because I've smacked the crap out of them. But I need assistance, that my damage is not sufficient. And because in Path of Exile you don't get to pick your stats, so, well, you do, but not initially. So it's not like, for example, in EverQuest, when you make a toon, you apply you get a number of points and you can add, I don't know, strength or agility or whatever. You can't do that in Path of Exile. If you pick a warrior, every level 1 warrior starting on the beach is absolutely identical. Which is quite nice because, you know, fair start. The problem is the RNG takes over from there on out. Every mob that you hit could drop potential loot, and depending on what it drops and how good it drops, well, you know, determines how well you do. Because obviously, you know, the easier job you're going to have if you get great loot than if you get, well, no loot and shitty loot. So, my first run, I got a unique weapon. Now, they're not actually unique, but they're called unique, so go with it. I got a unique weapon of a single-handed mace that twatted for a lot of damage, had a few stats on it. I mean, when I say twatted for a lot of damage, compared to all the normal ones, for, you know, to the average, when you start, you wake up on the beach, you kind of say hello to some half moth-eaten dude against a tree stump. Some zombie type thing comes to eat him. You grab his thigh bone and stab the zombie to death with it. So that's the half-eaten bloke's thigh bone. Stab the zombie to death with it. And it then drops, in the warrior's case, a one-handed mace. Thing, club, whatever. It's called a wooden club, right? But they're all the same. All white wooden clubs. It's absolutely the same. So the unique I got compared to that was phenomenal. And I got that off the guy at the end of the beach, because you fight a bit of a boss mob at the end. I got it off him. So I was forever setting about with something that was probably better than some of the crap you might even get at level 10, 15 as a normal white bit of loot. So as a result, it's dealing considerably more damage. Got a bit, you know, got a few more decent stats on it and all the rest of it. Hence, I got to the end of Act 1, and the stupid bloody wolf in the manor got me. Next time round, I didn't even have full armour. Got to the worm just outside Clearfell. Stupid worm. Got mobbed by a couple of extra things. It might not have been the worm, it might have been the witch, but certainly one of them overwhelmed me. I got stuck behind a few mobs, and I died. It might actually have been in Glenfell, but whatever. Anyway, I got stuck by a bunch of mobs, died. And now they've added this wisp thing. The wisp thing often leads to near-death experiences. So for those who do not play, they've added a thing called wisps. And basically you see like a little floating will-o'-the-wisp. And if you follow it, it kind of leaves fairy dust or something on the mobs. And it then picks a mob, turns it into a yellow mob, which is... So you only really have white, yellow and boss mobs, but yellow mobs are generally much harder. And it's then a boosted yellow mob, but it's also going to drop more loot because it's been wispified. And my last one, I was doing really, really, really well, but I couldn't avoid the wispy thing. And it was a magenta wispy thing, which the wispy things have colours. So yellow is normal, and magenta is considerably harder. So it, it would have dropped better loot should I survived, but I didn't survive. So, always the way. But of course, the wisps aren't guaranteed except for the first one, because they introduce you to the principle of it in Glenfell, which is the kind of third fighting zone. Hang on, this doesn't feel right either. There it is. This doesn't seem it. Maybe it will look better with a bit of tension. No, it doesn't. It still looks... Yeah, it is alright. Anyway, so they introduce it to you, and pretty much as you've survived your first fighting, well, your second fighting zone, technically it's the third, but we won't go into that. And, well, sometimes it drags you halfway around the zone collecting mobs, and the more mobs it passes, the stronger the wisp gets. So, of course, if it passes clumps of mobs, which Glenfell is known for, well, then it's getting quite stronger as it goes. Well, that's all well and good, but chances are you're like level 3, maybe 4 at this point. Well, you're not really fit for anything at this point. You're almost wearing your tighty whities with a wet noodle as a weapon, and well, it doesn't always go very well because, well, these things hit you quite hard. And more to the point, they always have friends. And so, while they did do some improvements, bear in mind it's in early access, so it can still change. They did do some changes because you're not supposed to get stuck. Yeah, I'm nearly done. Take care, I shall see you tomorrow. I'm only like 5 pins away from giving in myself, so but yeah, so I do think that I may have offended my hands a little playing too much Path of Exile the last couple of days. Might have lied, it might have been 6 pins, not 5. I've just done 3 and I've got 3 to go. So do the stick thing. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6. Let's put you in a stick. Put you around there. Get the pokey stick. Push the pins down. Hang on. on it. Put you on your stick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, that's fine. Like that. Put you over there. Take a photo for tomorrow's joys. There you go. Let's do it a bit more there. So. Oh, yuddy. Excuse me. Well, it is 2:30, so we Brits are allowed to be feeling a little bit tired. Especially when one of us stayed up till 4:30 playing stupid games yesterday, so or today, which are way like yesterday. Yeah, yesterday, because, well, technically it's now Sunday, so put some cloths over everything. My cloths have all got out of sync with each other, so hence having to put them on one by one, because they've all got kind of rucked up, because somebody's sleeping on them, aren't they? Puppy dog. Right. Big one to go on top. There we go. Right. Well, as I said, it is time for me to run away. Looks like most of you have run away anyway, so it doesn't look like you're going to miss me. I thank you for those of you who came today, but I shall be back tomorrow. See you later. Bye-bye.